So this video is actually very much late in comparison to my other video, which I did for Sandow Park. This is supposed to come out around G-Dragon's birthday, but unfortunately, we're here with it 9 weeks later. But I mean, there has been mention in the wake of music, so at least it makes most of this video still valid. Other than that, nothing else to say. Hope you guys enjoy the video, and let's get to it. In light of one of Asia's most successful entertainers and entrepreneurs, I wanted to make a video discussing the possibility of G-Dragon's comeback as a musician. While G-Dragon has been active in 2023, arguably more than any other year since his military release, I think that seeing the brand Peace Minus One grow so significantly, unlike any other, with his collaboration with Nike for the Quando shoes, was sold out immediately around the world and was a staple for sneakerheads. He's become a BMW ambassador, a Tiger Beer ambassador, and made Korea's Harper's Bazaar cover and appeared at Chanel's Hot Couture and Cruise Show. All these activities drew up the buzz that maybe his music activities were to be coming up next. And not to mention his video at the top of the year, which was a Gorilla Desk video that was talking about him directly greeting his fans, seeming like a soft announcement of his return. However, 6 months later, when people were still curious about an album due to the public activity, his exclusive contract with YG Entertainment expired, and this has prompted many rumors of a possible under-the-radar distribution deal with the label, or him making Peace Minus One into a larger imprint management brand for his own. Therefore, this video was born. So let's discuss the ways that the king of K-pop could showcase his dominance among the industry, even as it seemingly quote-unquote outgrown his status of stardom in the post-third generation globalization of K-pop, delving into briefly his pre-military fame, his future present mogul status, and his inevitable comeback. So let's begin. Formerly an SM Entertainment trainee at age 8 and then a YG Entertainment trainee at age 13, he's had one of the longest trainee periods among idols, and his exposure was gained early on as a child and then started drumming a music career before his training period. By 2008, when he did train with YG, he then debuted as a leader of the YG Entertainment group Big Bang, a group that today has sold a solid 100 million copies worldwide, standing with some of the best-selling artists in recorded music history, and their last headline tour being the most attended tour headlined by a Korean act in history for years, not to mention over 130 plus accolades. But the man himself, known as G-Dragon, is much more than a single member of a group. Many have argued he was by and large the mastermind among the members pushing their collective dominance. His own solo career has made him irreplaceable according to Harper's Bazaar Korea, with he himself scoring the most successful solo tour by a Korean act solo and Musician and Song of the Year at the Korean Music Awards, aka the Korea's Grammy equivalent, and has a host of hits alone. Once his own streak across the 2000s and mid-2010s slowed down to the military, he was already a legend and proved that whether you were a idol or non-idol rapper or even a music producer, there was no escaping his influence or impact on the music business and pop culture in Korea as a whole. He was even able to chart on Billboard's 200 chart prior to many others during a time when the US was still largely ignoring Asian music. Not to mention his contributions to the landscape by changing the entire industry release format with mini albums, which most K-pop fans know today from their own favorite girl groups or boy groups, but then doing so again outside of Big Bang by releasing his own mini album in the form of an artfully packaged flash drive. The event we know of today as Airport Fashion was pioneered by him. The release of a unique group light stick was designed by him, dubbing him the father of the light stick, to which some fans should feel grateful he didn't patent it, because 3 generations later it's still being utilized, having a unique group light stick. In short, he is a genius, a mythical figure among many. Yeah, I do wonder about his endeavors in the present as a mogul. The term mogul is used to describe an important person who is very rich or powerful, and I think that aptly describes G-Dragon and his position in the industry to this day. And yes, while G-Dragon was already known as a fashion icon to the public with his eclectic style and having gained attention with luxury brands, I feel that if you add in Peace Minus One, it puts him in a whole different stomping ground. The brand Peace Minus One is what put G-Dragon's foot in the door as a designer, and his first events with the Seoul Museum of Art exhibition 2015 and the pop-up shops in different cities around the world I feel like this quickly snowballed into other collaborations, making exclusive jewelry, luxury footwear collaborations with the Italian brand Giuseppe Zottani, the streetwear brand Verbal, and even a contribution to Mickey Mouse's anniversary exhibition in New York City, which is what ultimately has led to the iconic Nike collaborations we know today that has made G-Dragon a household name in a different manner. And I feel like this savvy nature of G-Dragon as a name turned brand made it clear that unlike his peers, not only was he thinking outside the box of his contemporaries in terms of where to make his name outside the music industry, but also who to make the ventures with by combining this leverage alongside his recent partnerships and ambassadorships like Paris Saint-Germain, BMW, and Tiger Beer, which he slowly built an empire of his own more than most Korean celebs imagine for themselves. So does this make him a mogul? Per the definition, yes. Without mentioning his net worth, which tends to fluctuate, his reach as an entrepreneur over the years has grown, and his position in the fashion business has made him more cemented than ever, at the very least within Asia. But it does get me to think of his future without YG Entertainment since June, where his contract expired, with the most powerful single musician in South Korea being a free agent. Going into the lane of a solo managed label wouldn't be a difficult task, honestly, for him. Many of his peers and juniors have made the choice to do this, like Jackson Wang, Jay Park, and Kang Daniel, to name a few. However, in light of some K-pop companies' perception of idol-based companies like Psy and Rain more recently, he could be more careful not to fall into these traps and remain a one-man agency. But what could a G-Dragon comeback even look like in the modern day? It's been very fascinating knowing that G-Dragon, even though it's been 3 years since his military discharge, maybe even almost 4 years, I think that the fact that he has not done any music release despite having all the ample time in the world has been both intriguing, but also I must be frustrating for more of the die-hard fans, because he's opted to grow Peace Minus One first before he comes back to music. Not in a similar manner how Rihanna treated the Fenty brand when she decided to leave music for a second, but there was no discussion of a new project in sight. While some can argue that some idols did see some type of success during the pandemic, I do think that it was a smart move not to release a G-Dragon return in that type of climate. Thus, here we are in the present day in 2023 where he still hasn't released the album, but it's a little different now. And at the top of the year, he made a formal Gorilla Desk announcement of his activities, which I thought was very fascinating, where he made statements about meeting his fans more directly and about an upcoming album, which did draw up a lot of excitement. But also, like some fans, skepticism. But my own skepticism wasn't because G-Dragon wasn't talking about releasing a comeback anytime in the near future. It was more about what does a G-Dragon comeback look like in this modern era of K-pop, where he was larger than life and now K-pop has gone more global than it ever has. G-Dragon was known for pushing the envelope, and yet here we are in 2023 where there are many idols doing much of what he did in his own way. For a larger than life figure like himself, who left the business amidst its biggest shift, how could he fit into this landscape? I think we should take a look at his bandmate's Taeyong comeback for context. I can only speak for myself, but I will say that Taeyong's album quality was not exactly what I was expecting, nor was the lackluster commercial success by comparison to his previous years. By no means this is not to degrade Taeyong at all, but I will say that this is a good example of how this could happen to anybody who's had previous success in this modern era of K-pop. When Taeyong began to tease his music return alongside Jimin and BTS being on his pre-release in January, this sparked a lot of new curiosity into his comeback. Now, the song released outside of the fan wars was generally hollow to me in terms of its actual quality. It was crafted well, but I do feel like it's not because of the performer's lack of skill, neither Taeyong or Jimin, but it was its music direction. However, the song itself, it did achieve a well-rounded success worldwide and reception among fans. But once the album did emerge, there was a level of music dread, as the music itself seemed to showcase that there was really a missing direction for Taeyong. Keeping in mind that the title of the album is called Down to Earth, I would think that this is more so about him going back to the basics of R&B, but the problem is he didn't go anywhere after just touching on the basics. It kind of fell flat in terms of its execution and direction. And I thought there were notable tracks like Shung, which has Grown On Me featuring Lisa, and Nightfall, but outside of that, there is this shortage of direction, there's this shortage of experimentation going on within the actual album, and thus the whole album fell flat. But what could G-Dragon actually learn from this? My advice is while he's recording or putting forth the final touches on the album, I would say he should deliver music that pushes him forward. My issue with Tang's album, ironically Down to Earth, is that it literally grounds and limits itself. Going back to your musical roots and not getting creative or risky is not necessarily a bad thing, but when you're not even trying, I think that's where we have the biggest issue. And we've seen artists like Beyonce with her 4 album go back to her traditional R&B sound. But when you're trying to explore some of the fundamental aspects of the genre, you are then trying to build off of what those basics are and then see where you can go from there. For G-Dragon, in his prime years, he executed hip-hop, R&B, trap, and dance pop well, and those blend of genres can still work today, but it depends on how he does it and who he works with. His usual YG roster of collaborators like Choice 37, Teddy Park, and Kush may not apply in the same manner. So I like to see what those writing credits and producing credits look like for G-Dragon in his next comeback. Features wise, I would love to see people like Dean, if we're lucky, and Hunjung of ATEEZ, CL reuniting with him on an original song outside of Teddy Park, BB, and if we're even luckier, seeing Kendrick Lamar, although I would say Kanye West because it's one of his influences, but we all see what Kanye is today. G-Dragon has never been afraid to experiment with his sound, so I think that it's fair to say he has a good shot for his comeback to be very successful both artistically and commercially. We'll just have to wait and see what becomes of this new music. There have been more hints towards the upcoming music, with G-Dragon posting a clip on his birthday. Most stars that were bred pre-social media era with their mystery and allure, they have a hard time sustaining that image without slipping or losing momentum in this day and age. And with the globalization of K-pop, some have expected that the industry has moved on without him, and dare have even said that it has outgrown him. But I feel that G-Dragon is, as Harper Bazaar mentioned, irreplaceable. Especially with an anomaly like him, he is part of the reason why K-pop culture and the music is formatted in the way it is today. All in all, the crown is still secure, and the ones that are quote-unquote paving the way are still mesmerized by the paving of their way by people like him.